Hey everyone, in this Starfield how to build a ship video, I want to try and show you this quickly and easily and help you get to grips with it and get you playing with the ship designer. So what we've got here is the original Frontier, quite heavily modified. I've added quite a few different bits and bobs here just to make it work a bit better for my current things that I want to do. But I'm sure you can make a better ship than me, but I want to show you how to play around with that. So to build a ship, you need a core ship to work with first. So I used the Frontier and adapted it, but you are free to buy a different ship if you want. However, that can soon get expensive, as we'll see here. So we're at New Atlantis in Jemison, and if you go over to this guy by where your ship lands, this is the ship services technician. Talk to him.
Anything I can help you with?
Yes, my good man. I would like to view and modify my ships. I'm going all posh on you.
Sure, have at it.
Beautiful. He was not amused. So we can modify our ship here. So this is my ship, and I may decide this is the ship I'm going to modify. Another option though, if we exit out of here, just go to him again, is I can see what ships he has for sale. So I'll go to this.
Find something you like?
And the reason why you might want to look at this is just to give you different ideas on ship designs and see how they all work. So on this core area here, we can see this Rambler 2, and we can have an idea of, you know, how the design has been made. And you'll get more sort of used to this as we have a little look on my ship in a minute, and we'll have a little play with that. But there's some core things here that are quite important. The top thing showing the ship systems compares the ship to your ship, so you can see some things are the same, but anything in red means my ship is better in that area at the minute with the systems that are on board. And if we flick through the different ships here, you can see most of the time my ship is beating these ships in terms of those ship systems. Now that doesn't mean my ship is superior, it's just on those core systems I've got some good stuff on there. Just beneath that you can see we've got the ship overview. This tells you how much fuel it's capable of holding, what the hull capacity is, sorry, what the hull strength is, the cargo capacity. So the more hull you have, in theory, the more damage it can sustain when we're in a ship battle. The more cargo capacity, the more we can carry that. You can also see the reactor class. That's very important because you can only drive or fly reactor A type ships initially, and you have to invest quite a lot in your piloting skills before you can up that to larger, more powerful ships. You can also see how many crew you can have on the ship, the range for the Grav jump, so the jump range, so this one is 30, and because that's in blue, that means it's better than my ship. It's not so good with the shields, they're 455, so that shows it's red. And then we've got this other thing, the particle and missile, they're the type of the weapons we've got. And this ship, lastly at the bottom, would cost me 89,638 to buy. As we go through the different ships, you can see they get more expensive. So this is still an A-rated ship, so we could go with this one. But, you know, more crew capabilities on this one. But its cargo capacity is still quite slim jim, etc. So we'll go through some of the other ones. And what I want you to look at here is particularly the designs and see how things are duplicated up. Like we've got various things there. This is going to be the bays at the back, I suppose. We can add a lot of, this one handles a lot of crew. I quite like the look of that ship. It looks quite cool. So just keep an eye on them and, you know, see what you think looks cool and what doesn't. So this one, very complicated ship, 283,000 to buy, so a lot of money. And of course, when you're starting out, these are going to be beyond you anyway. But I'm just explaining, you know, these are good to see the designs. So let's go back to my ship and talk about how we would modify or build the ship, you know, using this as our reference. So when you're looking at your ship or whatever ship you want to do, if you've got more than one ship, you can use LB, RB or whatever buttons show at the top to flick between them. But when you would then want to adapt the ship or build the ship further, you use the ship builder down the bottom there. So you see it's X for me. Now when I'm in this area, this gives me access to all of the little components of my ship, and as I move the left stick around, I'm accessing each of these. And when you hover over something, you see we've got some options that pop up just underneath the sort of bottom bar that we've got. So as I go over it to it, so you see that bar appears just beneath me, it changes. So there's a couple of things we can do here. If we're not hovering over anything, we have an undo and redo command. So if you're building away and you mess something up, you can use that to undo what you did. So for example, if I flick this off here, I deselect it and go whoops, I can press left on the D-pad and it will move it back to where it was. So that's quite useful there. So here you can see we've also got the add command, which is where we can add additional stuff to the ship. We've also got the flight check command that will check when we hit that whether everything is good here. It will also give you a breakdown of the weapons here, so I'm using LB and RB to flick between these, and we've just come out of that. And lastly we have exit. Just above exit you can see it says nominal, which means the ship is okay, it can fly and everything is hunky-dory. Also on the bottom bar there, we can see what this ship is built of. So we've got lasers, an EM weapon, missile weapon, and the strength of those. We can also see the whole sort of score, I suppose, you know, how big that hull is, the shield rate, and the cargo that we can take. So I've got 940 cargo. I can only have 2 crew on this particular ship at the minute. Jump range is 19 light years, mobility is 85. So mobility is how easy it is to fly around, and top speed, how fast it is, and how heavy it is with the mass. So that's, you know, the core things here. The other thing that we have is if we just hit exit here, we come back to this one before the ship builder, and if you just want to upgrade a system, you can do that here. So I've moved up on my left stick here, and I can see my individual sort of components here, the lasers, the EM weapon, the missiles, the engine, shield, grav drive, etc. And if you just wanted to upgrade one of those, you can select them down the bottom there. It says upgrade ship, and I can have a little look at the other shields here. Neither of these are better than the shield I have, so I'm better off sticking with my shield here. But it would get me some credits back if I switch to this inferior shield system, but I'm not going to do that. So we want to build the ship though. Let's get into that. So we'll come back out of that and mess around with the ship builder itself. So we'll go back to that. So you see I hit B to come back and then X to go back into the ship builder. So what you want to first have a little look at is how your ship is constructed. So the Frontier looked a bit different to this to begin with, and I'll talk about what I added for this. So these landing gears were here already, and if you want to move them out of the way, you can just select them. So down the bottom there, you see it says edit with A. So if I hit that, it then turns green. And as I move it with the left stick, I can pull it away from where it was. And if I want to just drop it where it is, I just hit A to accept, or whatever button it shows there. So it's out of the way here, and now we can have a little think about other things that we want to do on the ship. So we'll move this one as well. And now I have access to this infirmary bay that I put on this ship as a separate thing. So I can move this out of the way, and you can see that is all free floating. So the idea is that you can add other components to the ship, or, you know, adjust the design as you see fit. And to see what is available, we hit the add command down the bottom there. So you see it says A to add. Now this gives us access. I'm just going to move me to the left hand side while we talk about this. So we've got different areas. We have cockpits. So this is the bit where we all sit in at the front, and you can see there's all sorts of different cockpits here. And you know, the sort of abilities to this will adjust that bottom bar that we see here. So the Magellan C2 cockpit, you can see, would actually be a slight improvement, C2X rather, over what I've got here if I added a second one of these. So that's a possibility. So one thing I could do is say, actually, I want to get rid of this. I'm just going to move my lasers off. And I could say, whoops, hang on, let's get that one out. I want that other, I can't quite get the other laser. So if you want to zoom in, that's left trigger, right trigger for me. I would assume it's wheel on the mouse, but so, and I can see I've also got this here. This is my missile system. So there's my cockpit, and if I move to the right again, C2 cockpit is what we've got. Okay, so if I decide I'm going to get rid of that, I could delete it with X, and we can have a little look for another cockpit. So we'll go A to add, and then we can have a little look at the other cockpits here. So you can see this one versus this one doesn't actually do a great deal for us. So it's going to actually increase cargo capacity very slightly. So we get slightly advantage there, but not a lot else really. So it's up to you whether you want to do that. It is a lot more expensive than the standard C2, but looks pretty much identical. So personally, I don't think that's particularly worth the upgrade, but you could have a little look at other cockpits. So if you decide you want a different look, such as this Phobos cockpit, you want a different style, you could do this here. And that one, again, it's not really going to do a great deal. It does add a fair bit of cargo, so we could decide, actually, we're going to do that. So we're going to add that. The downside to this one, though, is check it out. We've only got options on the top and the bottom to add stuff. So we haven't got the kind of little ports that we had to hold these lasers. So you may decide, actually, that's no good for me. So if you don't like what it is, you can just delete it with X, add it again, and then have a little look all through the other ones and decide if anything else makes sense. But the Magellans, because they've got those sort of bits on the side, I think they work out quite well. So you may decide at this point, actually, I've messed that up, and that's where we could use the redo command. So we'll just undo with the left D-pad and chuck that back where it is. So other things we could do, let's just have a little look else what we've got on that add system. So we'll come back here and choose the add command with A. So that's cockpits. We've then got dockers. The docker is an important tool that helps you, funny enough, dock with other ships and star yards and stuff, and it needs to be on the outside part of your ship, or the furthest away part, so because it needs to be docked. So I've actually got one of these on my ship already, and it sits there. It's just black. So there's my current docker, and when we're hovering over anything, if I move me back here, you can see what these components are. So this is the docker, this is the shield generator, this is the infirmary, etc, etc. So the docker is a standard thing, but if I try to put the docker so something was above it, so if we added another engine like this, chucked it here, we see below we've now got an error, and if we hit the flight check with the menu button, it'll go, look, you've got unattached modules because I've put a landing gear to the left, and we've got an invalid docker module position because it needs to be on an outside edge of a ship. So we say, okay, fair enough. So we messed that up. So I've duplicated this engine. One of the things I want to point out there is that this may increase certain aspects of your ship. In this case, it didn't do a lot. So if we just delete that off, we go back to where we were before. So going back to those add commands again, let's have a little look what would make sense then. So these are different types of engine that we've got, and my ship originally had these white dwarf engines, and this sort of docking point that we've got there, you can see hit the side of the item, and because I wanted to add these extra bays to my ship, this one, the infirmary, and the workshop, I needed a different design so I could just sit these on the back. So looking at the mount options of the engines will often govern which engine you need. So if we go back to the add command again, there's another thing I need to point out on these engines, which is the class. So if you look on the left hand side, this engine, the Hercules, is a class B one, and I cannot use it for a couple of reasons. One of which is I'd need to change my reactor to class B, and I'd also need to be capable of piloting a class B ship. So that's something we need to look at. I'll try and remember at the end, but in your skills you will see access to that. I don't think I can access it here. Actually, I'm just going to do that while I remember. So we'll just come out here. By coming out, I can cancel all the work I've done here. Not that I've done anything useful, but we'll just hit cancel modification, come out, and then I just want to show you those skills. So just come out of there, hit the pause menu, and have a little look at skills. And it's where is it? It's this one, piloting. So if you look at this, by the time we get it to rank 3, I can then pilot class B ships and rank 4 class C ships. So these are basically bigger ships, more capabilities, etc., more powerful reactor, etc. But because they're bigger, you need more piloting. And these you rank up over time. So I need to destroy 15 ships, which I've done 14 so far, before I can rank up to the next rank. So that would then bring me to rank 3. So I'm nearly there, and then I can pilot that more powerful reactor. So let's go back. You'll also, just while we're in skills, you'll also find in here something to do with ship design, I think. There you go, Starship Design. And this enables you to access more improved ship modules, superior ship modules, cutting edge, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes if you want to do something more impressive with a ship, you're going to need to invest in skills as well. Right, back to our ship guy.
Got anything you need to offload? Sure, have at it.
So we're back to our ship here. Let's just have a little look at the ship builder again, and then add. So we've talked about cockpits, dockers, engines. We've talked about fuel tanks. So this basically gives you more fuel on your ship. So you can see it gives 50. I've got one of these already on my ship. I could go for a different one. So this would give me more fuel. So I could upgrade my tank to this one, or possibly this one, so a bit bigger. So let's say I want to upgrade that so I've got more capabilities on my ship. So we could say, let's have a little look what I've got. So this is the one that I've got. I've got a 100 GHE 3 tank. So I'm going to take that off, move it over here. In fact, I'm just going to delete it, then add, and I'll go for a 200 one, just to, actually maybe this one. Let's go, should we just go wild? Let's go with a 300. So we've got more, more fuel. And then when I've got that, I hover over it, and then I can select it with A, and I can move it into place. So we just slap it on there, and now we've got more fuel capability on the ship. So we've got this different design there. So that's how you would add something like that. So that's just going to give you more fuel capability. It is also, though, going to be heavier, as you would expect. So you can see that's made my mobility a bit worse. So it's kind of like a balancing act. If you look down the bottom there, mobility is 84, mass is heavier at 862. So, you know, more fuel on board, but heavier too. So you may or you may not want to do that. But I'm just going to do it just for this example. So if we go back to that add command and see what else we've got, that's fuel tanks. And then you've got the gears. So these are our landing gears, and these are limited depending on where you go. And you can see we've got a couple of different designs here. So I think I've got the NG10s. So you could add one here. One thing I totally missed when I was playing around with Ship Builder before is if you have a tiny little bar just beneath, can you see just above my head there, there's a little kind of two little bars, and you can flick between those with variant. So you can see down the bottom, previous variant, next variant. So if I hit that, that's how you flick between port and aft on this particular option. So you don't want all port ones on there. You can see at the back I've got the aft ones as well. So that's how I would add them here. But I don't want to do that in this case. But if I did, I'd just hit accept there. We could go over to Grav drives. So this is the thing that helps you jump around. And if we have a little look what's on our ship at the minute, this is, there's our reactor. I'm trying to think where the heck I put my Grav drive. It might be underneath. There it is, it's hiding there. So I've got a Vanguard Recon Grav drive here. So if we chuck it out here and have a little look at it, that's what we've got. And it's a reactor class. So let's have a little look what else we could add. Let's see if we've even got this Vanguard thing. I don't even know. But my Grav drive's powerful anyway. I don't think I'd really need another one. But if you wanted to replace it, you could do that all here. Again, you want to be keeping an eye on the sort of class and stuff. But this is just really going to increase the jump thrust. I don't think it will increase the range. I might be wrong. Let me see. Grav jump thrust. Doesn't look like it will. So let's have a little look. I don't actually. What we'll do if we delete that one, it should show we've then got no range. So it was 19 light years before, and let's just see. Oh no, it does change the jump range. So you see, if I go for that one, we've got a much bigger range. So this is going to cost me 12,000. But I can't add this because you see the class on the right hand side. Sorry, the left hand side says Class B, and I'm not going to be able to fly that. So that's a shame. So we're looking for a Class A that would improve what we have. So this one would improve slightly. 21 years. 21 years. What about that one? What's that? 24. Can I use this one? I can. A Helios 3. So we'll go with that one. So we'll add that. That's going to cost me 9,000 credits. So I've upgraded that. So in theory, I could have probably done that with the upgrade button on the first page, but sometimes it's nice just to see how these things work and where it's placed. So then I'll just sort of try and pop it in the middle there, back where it was, and then I'll highlight green. So we've done the Grav drive there. There's a couple of other things that are quite interesting on the ship, but we'll just keep going through that sort of menu, just to explain the other things that we've got. So habitats are very important as well. Now, these are different sizes, and again, that bar is important, so we can flick through them. So we've got an armory, captain's quarters, computer core. So I'm using right on the D-pad. If it's different button, it'll show previous variants and next variant down there. And so you may want some of these. So for example, there's the workshop. So the workshop would give you access to crafting benches and stuff like that. So you could add this here on this 2x1 and then add it to your ship. So that's one of the ones I've got here. The all-in-one work berth, the engineering bay, all these different things. So if you wanted to add any of these, you can just do it here. So let's say we wanted to add a captain's quarters, for example. We press A, and then we'd need to figure out where we were going to place that on the ship. So if we just make frankly, a bit of a car crash here. So let's just move that there. We could bang this on the side here and make our ship huge. Or we could say, do you know what, we're going to double up this bit on the side here. So I'm just going to move these things and chuck it on the top there. So then the sort of build system is sensible enough to know that we're going to put this on there, and you need some way of traversing between it. So it should add a ladder so you can get up to here later on. So because we've kind of gone double story now, we could put these back where they were, like so. Add our cargo here and our shield on the side, and then we've added that so the ship is considerably bigger, but we've sort of added to it. The other thing I could do is I've got this kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, this nose B type thing, so I could duplicate this, but I think I might be in trouble here. Let's see. I don't think this Star Yard's got it. This ship service technician, so I can't duplicate it here. So I need to see whether there is anything to put on the front there. But you can see, you know, we've added that to the ship. The other thing you can do is change color of things. So you can see this is a little bit of a different color to the rest of my ship. So if I hover over it on the bar there, the left stick, if I press that for color, I can then change the color of this. So I've got the hue, and then the saturation, and the brightness. The other thing you've got underneath are recent colors. So if it was a color that you recently used, you can use your left stick here to pick that here, and then just pick whatever makes sense for this particular area of the ship. So if we say, yeah, we want that, we've now added that with that color on top, and that's all sitting there, happy days. The other thing is, sometimes you may not be able to put something in front like this capping because something's in the way here, like you can see with this design here, with this suppressor weapon sitting on here. I would have to try and think where else I could move that. But if I couldn't really stick it on top because the docker is now sort of in the way here, so I'd need to think about bringing the docker up further if I wanted to put more stuff on top here, which could be an option. That's you know, we could play around with that, so we could stick the docker there, for example. That would be fine. And then we could add another bay sort of here in the middle here. But this ship is soon going to get very heavy. You know, we'll just mess around with a few things and help you get used to it. So we could add a companionway 1x1, for example. Chuck that there. And then we'll be, in theory, be able to walk around on this top floor between those two things. And then we could add another bay on this side here. So we've got a captain's quarters. So let's see what else we could add. We could add, let's see what else is there. An armory, that sounds quite cool. So we could add an armory and chuck that on here. Oops, not on the bottom, on the top. There we go. And then this would go on the side, or wherever you want to put them. And our cargo bay here. So you can see we've added a lot of stuff to our ship. It's also quite a bit heavier now. Not horrendous, but it is quite heavy. And then we could decide whether we want that there or whether we want to stick that there. If we weren't going to add anything to the top of these, we could say we don't need this, because we could have a ladder go up to each of these. So we could delete that, and that will drop the mass, and then chuck this back in the middle there. So we wouldn't be able to walk from the captain's quarters now to this armory, but it's, you know, keeping things a bit more compact. And again, what we're keeping an eye on down there where it says nominal, as long as it says nominal, we are good. This is possible to change the ship this way, and, you know, happy days, all is good. So mobility is still, it has been affected slightly, as we would expect, because things are a bit bulkier. We've stuck stuff floating on the side here, so it's not quite as sort of compact as it was before. But let's see what else we could add. So that's Habs. We've then got reactors. So this is like the core system. So the more powerful the reactor, the more stuff you can add to your ship. So, or the more, you know, control power you've got. This is obviously going to increase this sort of capabilities of the ship, but at a cost of, funny enough, cost. So let's have a little look where my reactor's hiding. I can't actually remember where the heck I put it. Where did I put my reactor? Have I even got a reactor? Or did I bin it? I can't. Oh no, I must have a reactor hiding somewhere, but where the heck did I hide it? Sorry, it's sitting there. So there it is. So I've got this reactor here, and if we have a little look, it's 20 power, repair rate of 135. So this is important because it'll improve repair rate. Reactor health of 27, whole 420. So what I'm going to do is have a little look what else we could add. I forgot what that one was called now. What was it called? A tordial reactor. So so that's one of these, isn't it? So we could up it slightly, so you can see power generated 180. This one would have a better repair rate and cost a fair bit more. Or we could have a little look at one of these and see whether they are better. So this would have power generated 20. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there because this is in the way. So we say 134 millimeter reactor. So we'll get rid of that. And then if we add another one, then what we should be able to see is whether this is actually improving things or not. So we can see possibly. Let's have a little look. Nothing that's going to be a huge thing. I don't think you can have 2 reactors, but I will check that. So we'll just see whether it will allow us. So Let's just chuck that on top. And see whether that will do it. I don't think it will. It's got an error, but let's just see. Can we have 2 reactors? Flight check. You can only have 1 reactor indeed, so we can't do that. I didn't think you could, but we're just checking that. So we would just add whatever reactor we wanted. So let's say we want that slightly more powerful one, and then chuck that in. The downside is that you can see that this one, yeah, there we go. Sometimes the size may not fit where you want it to, but that works fine. So we've got a slightly improved reactor there just to help slightly. So we've added quite a bit of stuff there, so we could add more. We've got shields. We talked about, did we talk about shield? No, we talked about fuel. Same sort of thing as the fuel thing. We can improve our shield. So this was one that I added that improved my shield system over what I had originally. So you could do the same sort of thing here. It doesn't really need explaining, apart from, I suppose, look on the left-hand side, shield max health. Shows you, how this would adjust things. But again, check the class. So if it's class B, you're going to need that more powerful reactor. Now we come to structural, and structural is largely about cosmetics. So you can chuck things on. So this is something I could add to the front of those just to add a bit of interest. So you see there. So we could chuck that on there just to make that a bit more interesting. However, I can't quite, because if I put that on, that blocks this. So we'd have to move this out of the way. So we kind of lost a mounting area there. But you could design it like that if you wanted. Again, remember, if you don't like that, you can just undo and undo again. And we're all good there. And this is something you could just spend ages on, but you want to be looking all through these and just decide, this is how you could change quite a bit of the look of the ship, aerodynamics, but it's also going to increase the mass of the ship. So sometimes this may give you more options for mounting top and bottom, like lasers or whatever. So this wing here, and again, remember, we can flick between the 2 different wings. So we can have this sort of stuff on the side. So if we move this off, for example, and then chuck this one on, we could do that and take this off. So you can get kind of a more interesting looking well, we don't want to duplicate that, we just want another one, don't we? So we would add, and then look to the next variant with the right stick, and then add that to there, like so. I'm not saying that's pretty, I'm just showing you the options. And then that could go on there. If we got rid of that, you get the idea. So we can do all sorts of stuff with it. So it's really just sort of click and sort of adjust. So I quite like the shape of that actually on the top. That does look quite cool. But I need to then think about where the heck I was going to put, where I was going to put this weapon now. So it could sit on the top, like here. But that is going to give me an error because of my docking area here. I need to think where I would put that so we could dock successfully. So you get the idea. It's like quite a can of worms. But, all sorts of stuff we can do. We'll just have a little look what else we've got. I think that's quite a lot of the stuff here. You've got braces, so you can use these to, mount your engines a little bit better and all sorts of things like that. We've then lastly got weapons, and these are all your different weapons that you've got available on the ship. You typically have 3 sets of weapons, and what we could see before was what weapons I had on mine on the like the kind of summary on the first page when we were looking at upgrades. And there are different types of weapons. One of the most useful, I think, is the EM weapons, which will disable ship systems nice and quickly without damaging the hull. So that's something I added to mine. But you can see all the different ones here and decide. There you go, suppressors, I think they are, EMP. So they will help disable an enemy ship, and you can have multiple ones on the ship. So, but you need to be adding these where you would have a mounting port for them. So you can see I've got nothing on that right side now, but we could put them, I don't know, just up. If I use the D-pad to come up, I can then look for places where this might be able to be mounted, but this one seems to have require like a top mount. Top mount? I don't even know. You get the idea anyway. You just need to find somewhere where you would mount that, where it would sit quite happily. I can't find it. I think it would go there, but Let's delete this. So we'll delete that. I think it'll sit there, won't it? No, it doesn't seem to want to. Ah, there we go. So we could change it that way. So that D-pad up and down is quite useful to come up and up the different areas and sort of work out what you wanted to do. So that's all quite cool. So if we talk next about bays, these are the landing bays that you've got. So there's 2 available at this place here, and these sit underneath the ship and give you access onto the ship. So you can see I've got a landing bay just under here. So there it is. So I've got the NG10 as the landing bay there. I can unclip it and put on a different one if we want. And again, depending on the shipyard that you go to, you may find some different ones. So if we move that there and just move out a little bit here and then add, we can have a little look at the other ones here. Not that they're going to do a great deal of difference here, so but you can just pick another one there. So you do need a landing bay underneath, and you also need to make sure that your landing gears are given enough shape or space for that landing gear to sit down like it is here. So we'll just undo again and just pop that back into place there. Have a little look at the next thing that we've got, which is quite important, which is cargo. So last but not least. Now, depending on where you go for cargo, you will get different types of cargo, one of which is shielded cargo, which I will point out in just a second. So this type of cargo is designed to either sit on the back of something or on the base. And if we have a little look on my ship, I've actually got a couple of these sitting underneath. However, if you look on the left hand side, mine are shielded cargo, and these are very useful for protecting it against contraband that you've got and stopping scanners being able to see what's in your cargo bay, or vastly reducing what they can see anyway. So you can get these on a special place that I'll point out in a moment, but if we just move this off, we'll just see it there, and then to clip it into place you would just move here and then clip it wherever you want it, like so. So that one sits nicely underneath and at the back. The other type of cargo that I've got on this ship is one that sits on the side here, and I could replace this entirely if I wanted. So if I select this one, actually if we just for practice down the bottom there, it says delete, and then I could go to that add again and then just choose a different type of cargo. So there's some that sit underneath, and then there's others that sit on the side like here. So we could put a massive cargo hold here, and if you look on the left hand side, you'll see how much cargo space this gives. So this one's 210, 245, 320. This one is an absolute beast. So let's say we want this one, and then we put this onto the ship like so, and we could copy it the other side and really up our cargo capabilities. Now the downside with these cargo sort of containers or cargo holds is they really up the mass of your ship, but also the cargo. So if you look down the bottom there, I've now got cargo space of 170, whereas if we, or 1070, back before I had 940, so it did up it considerably. That said, these are shielded cargo, so the last thing I really want to talk about is where you could get shielded cargo or other places you could travel to get more options for your ship. So let's just jump out there and talk about that quickly. So if we have a little look at the star map, come out of here and out again. If you want shielded cargo, as far as I'm aware, there's one quite far away. I'm just trying to think where it is now. Is it that one? We're looking for a system called Polymer, which is right the way over here. And when you go into here, if we look in here, you're looking for Polymer 3, which I think is that one. Zoom into this and you will find a place called Red Mile. So when you go to Red Mile, you will find a ship services inside the main base, and if you talk to that guy, you can get shielded cargo. So shielded cargo is a little bit more expensive, not a lot, but it's also heavier, so you don't get as much space for your stuff, but it is quite useful for applying and adding shielded cargo to your system. The other thing is have a little look around at different shipyards, because you may find more stuff. So you can have a little look at the shipyards at, say, Narian or Cheyenne system. I think Cheyenne system's got some more stuff initially. So when you go here and then have a little look inside this place, Aquila, so the ship services there. To begin with, I couldn't fit the workshop to my ship. I had to go here first, and then I could add it in Jemison. So that may be useful for you as well. So when you go into Aquila, you'll see there's Aquila City there. And that's where I got that as well. So there you go, that's how to build a ship in Starfield. I hope that was useful to you. If it was, give us a thumbs up please, that's much appreciated. Any comments welcome, whether you like the tutorial or not, you want to tell me about your experiences in Starfield, or just something about the video, or general stuff, I don't really mind, as long as you interact with the video. That tells YouTube it's been of some interest, so thank you so much for doing that, and that's much appreciated. Have a little look at the rest of my channel. I'll put some tutorials at the end of here to help you with other Starfield stuff, so hopefully they help you out as well. And I've got all sorts of games covered on my channel, so have a little look around, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe, will you? Help me support the channel. Thanks so much.